Welcome to tonight's webinar. Just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jeff Winkler, and I am one of the founders of Origin Code School. Tonight, here's kind of the agenda. Anticipated only taking about 15-20 minutes, kind of review some of the information. If you have additional questions, let me know afterwards. First thing we'll jump into is programming languages. So if you have any previous knowledge of programming or coding, then you'll probably have heard of at least HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. The other five are backend languages, which we don't really have to dive into too much today, but kind of want to give you an overview of some of the most popular languages being used today. Each one is used for different sorts of companies, whether it be small companies, startups, mid-sized companies, or even large companies like Qualcomm's. So each one kind of usually serves a different kind of function and has different strengths and weaknesses, but we don't really need to dive into that for this call, other than to know that Origin focuses on .NET and a language called C# as well. So why did we choose .NET? The answer is really for jobs. Our main focus, everything we do, our overarching mission is to get our students jobs after the class is over. So some people say things like, oh, I'd love to learn how to do like iPhone apps. And we think that's great. But if you don't have a salary to live off of while you're teaching yourself how to learn to make iPhone apps, then it doesn't really matter. So we wanted to focus on jobs. And then if there's a niche in there, some people want to do robotics someday, some people want to do iPhone apps. But by getting people a job as a programmer, that kind of opens up the door and gets your foot in the industry. Because once you learn one programming language, it's significantly easier to learn your second programming language. So we went to employers in San Diego. We asked them, if we had a bunch of students today that knew what language would you be most interested in hiring? And .NET was by far the most mentioned language that they had mentioned. In fact, I just had a recruiter that lives in, or I guess their office is in La Jolla, and he has 10 .NET jobs available today if he had people to be able to fill those. So we talked about him. He'll probably come in during the 1st September class and speak about the industry itself, and probably more towards the end when we're looking at filling jobs. But anyways, the 1,548 jobs is how many jobs are available for .NET in San Diego. And I got that from dice.com, dice.com. And then 176 was Ruby, Angular, and Node jobs combined. So it's really regional. I know, like, for Ruby especially, Ruby's a really popular language in the startup world, and it's growing fast, specifically for startups. We chose a language that was specific to San Diego, and there's not as many startups in San Diego. So for instance, if you wanted to work in San Francisco and wanted a job in San Francisco, Ruby would probably be a better language for you. San Diego is more enterprise companies, more biotech, and there's just more .NET jobs available in San Diego and Southern California. So that's specifically why we chose the language that we did. A little background on me. I started a company about 1.5 years ago called Gym Surfing. And then we ended up selling this past year in February to a company called ClassPass based out of New York. So I'm very familiar with the startup scene, that was my first one. I had no previous knowledge of that. I was in corporate America before. And once we sold, I was like, I need to learn how to be a programmer, because essentially our programmer, without him, we couldn't have got as far as we did. And I didn't want to have to rely on somebody else to start the next company. So I went to a code school myself. There's a lot of things missing from that code school. It's more like, hey, learn how to code. It wasn't learn how to code and get a job afterwards. So we're really focused on the person that wants to get a job afterwards or wants to be a freelance developer as soon as the class is over. More so than somebody that's just like, oh, hey, I just want to learn how to code and create a startup, per se, by myself afterwards. So that's essentially why I felt really strongly to start Origin, because there was nothing really out there that focused strictly on getting people jobs, specifically too in San Diego. A little bit on Cameron. Cameron has his master's in computer science. He's been a freelance developer for the past 5 years, and he's been teaching while he's been freelancing to both computer science majors as well as tutoring students privately. He's actually right now tutoring some of our students for our September cohort. So if you sign up to the class and want to get started early, we're already kind of reviewing some stuff with some students so they can hit the ground running once class starts. If you want to kind of get a feel for how Cameron teaches, we have our meetup next Tuesday downtown in the Co-Merge building. So we'll kind of be building an independent project there as well. So bring your computer for sure. An overview of our class, Monday to Thursday. It's 9 to 5 every day. You're expected to be there from 9 to 5 every day. 9 to noon is the teaching aspect or reviewing the previous day's project. 1 to 5 is kind of working on the assignment that you've been given. Sometimes it'll be an individual project. Sometimes you'll be working with a partner. It kind of depends on the specific day. And then Friday is when we'll have our guest speaker. And Thursday night, you'll get a larger than average project that'll take you all the way through the weekend. So Friday we'll have founders of companies come in, founders that are currently hiring developers so they can kind of tell you what they're looking for. We'll have, excuse me, we'll also have senior developers come in, kind of explain what their day looks like, what a day in the life looks like, what are some resources that they still use to learn on the job. And then towards the end, we'll have people come in for mock interviews that actually are HR for developers. And would be somebody that would potentially be hiring you, walk you through what an interview looks like, what they're looking for, and kind of how to answer some of the questions. Because interviews for developers are very unique compared to any other type of interviews. So it's something we want our students for sure to have already been have been practicing and have down by the time they go out and apply for jobs. Final project and demo day. So we'll have a final project, some question on what that will be. It'll be unique to each student. So whatever you feel passionate about and you want to build, that's what you're going to end up building. We'll help you with the scope of like how long it would take and maybe take down some features because it'll be a fixed period of time. But we want you to build something you're passionate about so that, we know you'll take the time to build it out. And then after the class, you'll have something that you've actually created and, actually wanted to build yourself to continue to work on. Probably one of the most common questions I get is how much do developers make? Well, I took this an hour ago today. So this is from information from today from indeed.com, indeed.com. If you want to go there and check it out yourself, see what the difference between San Diego and maybe another city you're comparing to salaries are. The one that once our students graduate the class that you should be looking at is the junior .NET developer in San Diego. So that's at 59,000, so close to 60. So that's about what the starting salary is going to be for a junior developer getting out of a code school on average. So there will be some that are lower than that. There will be some that are higher than that. But I wanted to give you kind of a range of anything that says senior in front of it, by the way, is someone who's been doing it for 3 to 5 years. Sometimes they can get away with doing it for 2 years, but generally I'd say it's 3 to 5 years. And it generally just depends on how hard they work and how much they're learning, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, because everybody's a little bit different. So wanted to give you an idea of how much people are making today in San Diego. Also, this came out, I believe, what was it, last week? In the San Diego Reader. So kind of gives you an idea of overall in general, I just put this in here to kind of show some people end up starting as a developer and then they go to a project manager because they have more of a sales background. Maybe they're more of a people person. So just because you start as a junior developer doesn't mean you're going to end up as a developer forever. But just being in tech is really where all the jobs are being created and where the salaries are higher because the demand is so high. And you can't really be a good project manager and talk to either be in sales or either be a project manager and manage developers without having done the work yourself. So this is kind of the entry level into technology itself and kind of shows, in San Diego what the average wage is being in tech versus not tech. Specifically, .NET developers are in shortage. There's several reasons why. I won't dive into those. I just, just sharing with you. I talk to companies all the time about how they can't find enough quality .NET developers. So for me, it's kind of a, of course, no one can find .NET developers, but maybe you're kind of unaware of the demand that there is for developers in general. So I just wanted to include this to kind of show you, like, out there in the industry, how high of a demand there is for more developers, specifically in San Diego, because they lose a lot of developers to San Francisco quite often. Also, like I kind of mentioned before, I attended a code school, and I wanted to give you a screenshot of essentially the exact email that I got from a recruiter before I even got out of the class. So my class ended April 1st, and before the class even ended, I got this email stating that they asked me how much I wanted to make, actually, and I told them I had no idea what I was worth. So she told me I was worth about $60,000 to $80,000. So rather than just show you statistics, I wanted to show you my real life example of the email I got before I even got out of the class. Like I mentioned, I actually have recruiting firms ask me all the time if we already have students, because they have jobs they need to fill. So we'll have a few come in, and you'll have access to a bunch. We already have a job board for our students as well once they get out of the class. And so once they're trying to find a job, once they get out of the class, or even 2-3 years down the line, they just want to post, they'll actually be worth way more valuable in 2-3 years with that much experience, but can still use the job board because we already have people that have committed to continue to check it and want us to know when it's filled. So the co-merge building, and it's not necessarily a co-merge building, but it's down on A Street in downtown San Diego. So there's 45 members, which are essentially startups in San Diego. Each of these startups has, I don't know, anywhere from 1 to 10 employees, and they're all hiring developers. So there's a lot of technology startups in the building. There's a lot of meetups there for startups. So if it's a startup atmosphere you want, there's definitely a lot of people, good people in the same building as you to go network with. And, as you're getting coffee in the morning, you'll be standing next to somebody that's, hiring developers all the time. So just wanted to kind of review where it was at. It's also where our meetup is, down on A Street. So if you get a chance. Okay, pricing. So it's $11,995 for the in-person class, which I think most of our webinar students have expressed interest in. The 2-month paid internship is essentially, companies either call it a 2-month internship, or they'll call it a 60-day trial period, and it's a job. So our goal is to get you in a position where you're getting paid to be working, because to us, that's a job. So what that means is an internship where you're not paid does not count as getting you a job from our perspective. We want to get you out of the class. We want to get you paid to be a developer. So our class is, like I said, $11,995. It's $1,000 down, and then the rest of it can be financed through a third party. And like I said, if we don't get you paid in a job role as soon as the class ends, we give 100% of your money back. We're pretty confident that, moving forward, especially for our first class in September, we know we can get everyone jobs because we've just, established so many connections before we even started the code school, just being in the startup world. We know we can get everyone in our first class jobs, like tomorrow. Moving forward, we'll just rely a lot on the relationships we've already built, as well as the job board that people are already accessing and asking for. But for our first class, everyone in there, I could introduce to the employers that are already told me, like, I'll take 2 of your students, I'll take 3 of your students. So, and then the online option, there's not a whole lot of people on the call that wanted to know about the online option, so I'll kind of skip through it. But everyone that takes our real class will have access to the online option later for free. So you'll be able to kind of review all the lectures in case you missed something or didn't write it down, or you'll have access to all those online videos. So you can go back and check. Kind of walking through the process, there's an application process, which is our online application. So you fill that out on our website, send it. As soon as I get that, we set up a phone call, do a phone interview, and then we accept those that make it through the interview process, send some pre-work so they can hit the ground running. And while it's not necessarily included, some of that pre-work is included, spending time with Cameron and working on some projects now. And, you know, the most important thing you can do before you get employed is build up your GitHub account, which is like your Facebook page for your coding projects, is the best way I can describe it. So right now we're just building up GitHub accounts and building projects with students, and that's what we do at our meetup, the same thing. So that's the most important thing. Like I said, everything we do kind of focuses on what would get you one step closer to getting a job, and then we kind of work backwards from there. And then our class starts in 2.5 weeks. Our next 2 classes start September 21st and January 4th. We have a few already registered in January. For sure, if you want to take the September 21st class, we need to get your phone interview done by the middle of next week, just so you have about a week and a half to go over some pre-work, and we can get all the financing done, because that takes about, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 days. So we still have a few spots left for the September 21st class, but if you are wanting to do that, just make sure and shoot me an email tonight or in the morning at the latest, so we can get your phone interview done. Tomorrow morning would be ideal. I already have tomorrow afternoon's full already with some interviews, so let me know and we can knock it out. What can I do right now? Code Academy is a good place to start. What we kind of encourage people to do is everything that you would give to us, like the $1,000 deposit, stays, so we have your spot saved in the class itself. Once you have your acceptance and $1,000 deposit, you're not losing your spot in the class. If something comes up where the student decides they can't take the class, or they don't want to take the class anymore because they don't think they'll enjoy it, we just give the money back, no questions asked. So the reason being, it's 12 weeks, it's full time, it's really hard. It's going to be a giant challenge. So you got to be all in if you're going to do it. In order for us to get people jobs and ensure the quality of our students stays high, we want to know that they're motivated, they want to be there. And so we don't have any non-refundable deposits or anything like that. But that said, the best way to know if you enjoy coding and you've never done it before is hop on Code Academy. Go through the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript class. Probably HTML and JavaScript are the 2 best to do if you've never done anything before. And just see if you enjoy it. See if you like building stuff. Work through it. See if you kind of like the logic of working through those problems. That's the best way I can tell you to figure out if you enjoy it or not. Our meetup September 8th. We have free pizza, free beer. We'll help you set up your GitHub account. We already have an online Slack community that people help and build the projects even after the classes are over. And then conferences, a lot of those just ended, so I won't touch on that. If you have questions, you can shoot me an email. It's jeff@origincodeacademy.com, or you can hit up Cameron at cameron@origincodeacademy.com. Again, if the September 21st class is what you're interested in, you definitely want to shoot me an email tonight or in the morning at the latest, letting me know when we can do your phone interview by middle of next week to make sure that we have everything done by the time class starts. Or if you want to wait and hang out till January, that's fine too. Just shoot me an email in that case too, letting me know you're interested, or you can fill out the application online would probably be the best way to go about doing it, so then we have you in the system. But if you have additional questions, if you're already a developer and want a job and want to get on our job board, that's something that we just want the community in San Diego to get more jobs and to build the skills necessary to do that. So that's what our meetup's about. It's, like I said, it's free. There's about 25, 30 people that show up. So if you're still just, man, this seems overwhelming and I don't know what this is all about, then that's a great first step, is come to our meetup, get familiar, start building projects, and then we can help you from there. So hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Thanks.